phrases that in media people begin to say and then they believe them. A perfect example of that is Kyrie Irving. Why do people hate him? So I think as it relates to the Sixers and making them play together, no man can make somebody play together. I think basketball is a team game. They were teammates, so they were ready to play together. But I think, being around the Sixers, particularly this season, in person and virtually through Zoom, the Sixers have dealt with a lot of injuries this season. The Sixers have also dealt with roles not known specifically. I think when you look at the Sixers organization, their best season was last year, not this year. I remember I was at a gathering with Woj, and last summer, one of the things Woj said was, the Sixers in free agency last year had to figure out how they could retain Jimmy Butler, J.J. Redick, as well as Tobias Harris. And they lost J.J. and Jimmy, and in order to make that happen, they made that sign and trade with the Heat to bring in Josh Richardson, as well as re-signing, Tobias Harris. And, you figure with their bench that somehow they can find a way with shooting to replace JJ, but you're missing strong veteran leadership in that regard. And so I think when it comes to Doc Rivers, I think there are still some adjustments that are going to have to be made. There's been talks about draft day, situations where, some trades can happen. I know that Minnesota is interested in, particularly bringing in, making some type of trade at the draft point. But I also think that Philadelphia, there is interest in Chris Paul. There is interest in some other pieces as well. So it remains to be seen. Philadelphia, I think, would riot if they traded Joel Embiid. And I think that, Joel is more favored within the Sixers organization than Ben Simmons. But I also think Ben Simmons is a walking triple-double, as I mentioned, too. I think that one of the things that Philly missed last year was, I think, and talking to Brett Brown, Brett moved Ben to the 4 spot too late. What I did like was that when he did move him to the 4 spot, Shake Milton was a viable point guard role that was able to cultivate to Ben's strengths, which is getting to the cup. You saw that during times with Jimmy Butler, but I think the thing that I liked about Shake Milton was the fact that he could also shoot the basketball at a high clip. Mm-hmm. But I think that moving forward, you have to find out or figure out if Ben is your 1, is he your 3, is he your 4? It's kind of like a LeBron James type of situation. I think the Los Angeles Lakers figured it out, particularly in certain situations where you're shifting Rondo to the point guard spot and LeBron is playing strictly 3, but can still be a playmaker in that regard. But pretty much LeBron is your point guard. The difference between LeBron and Ben Simmons obviously is the fact that LeBron shoots the ball at a higher percentage than LeBron James, than Ben Simmons does. So I think that with Doc Rivers, being a former player, being a player's coach, being relatable to today's NBA, I think they'll be playing fun basketball. But I do still think that there are some things that Philly needs to figure out, particularly as it relates to scorers, whose hands the ball should be in at certain critical moments. And it's going to be interesting in a more competitive Eastern Conference.
One thing that I saw on your Twitter today, something you retweeted, was possibly a Drew Holiday trade to, it could be the Nuggets working alongside Jamal Murray for potentially MPJ. What do you think of that move? What do you think that'll do for the Nuggets? What do you think the Pelicans are losing out on?
Yeah, so that retweet was from George Karl, who expressed that. That kind of goes into my reporting over the last month, as it relates to Denver looking for a point guard. If you recall, I had tweeted, I think, August 31st, which was my mother's birthday, but also somewhere between there, just about Chris Paul and Drew Holiday. Mm-hmm. Chris Paul was on the list or was on the Nuggets' list. I think it was 7 or 8 teams. Told you I was up till 4 o'clock this morning, so I haven't had my afternoon coffee. But from what I remember, I know that the Sixers, the Knicks, the Nuggets, the Pelicans, the Suns, couple other teams, forgive me for not naming all of them, but had interest in Chris Paul. And so with that same theory, that George Karl suggested, I do think that, I know that when I had tweeted about the Nuggets having interest in Chris Paul, people kind of scratching their head. To me, in today's NBA, you can have two point guards at the one and the two spot.
Yeah.
One and two spots. And I think that people look at Jamal Murray and say, well, he's the point guard. Yeah, but he's also your primary scorer, and when I look at that situation, it makes me think of actually kind of like the 76ers when Allen Iverson played, where they shifted him from the 1 to the 2 and then started Eric Snow. It actually saved Allen Iverson, gave him some breathers defensively on the defensive end after bringing the ball up and having to score and get players involved. And I see the same thing in the case with Denver. You bring in Jrue Holiday, probably one of the most underrated, if it happens, one of the most underrated defenders in the league. And what's interesting is when you look at, but this may be this is before both of you guys, it's time lifting in the down, but I was talking to Stephon Marbury the other day, and Steph was talking about some of the most underrated people in the league. And he said Terrell Brandon, who played for the Cavaliers and the Minnesota Timberwolves, was very underrated. And you look at a guy like Andre Miller, very underrated. I put Jrue Holiday in that same vein. And I think when you look at what Jrue Holiday brings to the table, you're looking at a New Orleans Pelicans team that is looking to rebuild. Do you rebuild that point guard with Lonzo Ball? Who do you rebuild with? So I think that somebody like Jrue Holiday would benefit the Nuggets because they were missing something. You look at a couple of teams in the NBA. You look at the Nuggets, they're missing something. You look at the Dallas Mavericks, they're missing something. You look at the Miami Heat, they're missing a veteran presence. But I think more so the common denominator with the Nuggets and with the the Nuggets and the Dallas Mavericks is some of the same things. Like, you got to move Jamal Murray off the basketball. You have to move Luka Doncic off the basketball. And I think when you do that and you bring in a veteran leader like a Chris Paul or Jrue Holiday, great things can happen. So, yeah, George Karl knows the deal, and he knows how the clock tick-tocks. And that's kind of just confirmation that Denver's looking to make some type of move.
So I want to get to another rumor that's going on right now with Victor Oladipo, and you tweeted this. I saw your tweet yesterday. You mentioned that the Knicks and the Nets are involved in that, and then some other possible teams. And what does the Knicks and the Nets have to do to pull this off? And obviously, the Nets are in a much better situation with Kyrie and KD, and he can fit perfectly there. But what do the Knicks have to do to pull this off to get Oladipo in New York?
Well, I think Oladipo was owed like $20 million for the 2020-2021 season. That's a tongue twister. I'm going to say it again. Oladipo was owed $20 million in the 2020-2021 season. And if that happened, the Knicks are on the table for, potentially bringing in Chris Paul or Victor Oladipo. But the thing about it is the Pacers hold the cards in that regard. Do you let him play another year and walk away with nothing? If they don't do some type of trade in season. So when I look at that situation with Victor Oladipo, if you take him at his word, he did a sit down interview with Fat Joe the other day, so he wants legacy and all those other factors. I did mention that there are some other teams on the table. So when I tweeted that video yesterday with New York, I think is what you're referring to. He was singing spreading the news. It was with us a duet he did with Charles Barkley in 2018.
Yeah.
And I was joking, or half-heartedly joking. I think there's a lot of things going on in this world, and humor is definitely a great tool to get people's attention. But in order for the Knicks to make that happen, I know the Knicks have been dangling, Kevin Knox forever. I know that the Knicks are sold on Mitchell Robinson and RJ Barrett. I know the trading deadline last year, the Warriors and the Knicks were talking, and I know that there was the Warriors in order to bring in D'Angelo Russell, to the Knicks, and there was a back and forth. The Warriors wanted Mitchell Robinson, and by the time any type of deal had commenced, their team president and the Knicks had parted ways. So I know that Kevin Knox was something that was dangled to the Pelicans, and the Lakers had a first round pick, so that the Knicks wasn't an option. So I think the Knicks want a big name or a name. I know that Fred VanVleet is somebody that's been on their wish list for a while. But I also just think the Knicks need to build young, and I think that when you look at 2011 when they traded off such a lot of their young talent away for Carmelo Anthony, I like Melo a lot. No Melo, have respect for him, but I think sometimes you got to let the team grow. Let the team grow instead of just blowing it up. And I think that they're doing it the right way if they don't just jump on a name. So the Nets, to me, Kyrie Irving, I have a great deal of respect for, but at the same time, he's been injured often. And so I think the Nets need some type of insurance policy in case he does get hurt. But you kind of have that in Spencer Dinwiddie, and he proved that, during the season, that in his absence, Kyrie's absence, that, he can make some things happen. But I think in order for the Nets to, if, the Oladipo thing happens, they need to do whatever they need to do to not trade Dinwiddie, or actually, I take that back, to not trade Caris LeVert. That's their third star.
Yeah.
Do you stick it out with Jared Allen, or do you get rid of Jared Allen? And are you totally sold on DeAndre Jordan, who could be their third piece or their fourth piece? So I think those are things that they're considering. I think that the Nets, if they were to make some type of move, I like the Drew Holiday option better than the Oladipo option personally, because I think that, like I mentioned in your previous question, I look at Drew Holiday from a defensive standpoint, great leader, and he can shift between positions 1 and 2 easily. And I just think that he's a great veteran presence. But then on the other side, if the Nets re-sign Jamal Crawford, do you need that? I think the only thing that Holiday has over Crawford is he's younger. And maybe some people may feel as though the defensive portion of that is in Drew Holiday's favor. So you're going to see a lot of change in the NBA offseason, the draft, free agency. It's a lot, but these are discussions that front office people are having.
I want to go back to this final series going on right now. Obviously, Adebayo, Dragic, possibly out for what is it, 2 games. How will Miami be able to adjust? Who's going to have to step up to fill in those roles?
How will Miami need to adjust and step up? I think at the end of the day, I think it comes down to Kendrick Nunn. I think Kendrick Nunn has the opportunity to really shine in the series.
Did we lose him?
Yeah, for
oh man. All right, let's see.
should we cut it and restart it?
No, I think he's gonna join back.
Okay.
That was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got some big time guests coming up next week. Willie Colon next Wednesday,
Really? What
Yeah.
time is that?
2 p.m. Eastern. I met him in person before, so
At a game?
no, charity event, softball charity event they do.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so he's coming on to Wednesday, and then a couple more things I'm working on, hopefully. Oh, then tune in today at 3 p.m. Eastern on Instagram Live. Today I'm having Uptown Dale from the Miami Heat thing.
Oh, I think yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned you guys to him too.
Thank you.
Yeah. I wonder where.
Is he coming back in?
I just messaged him saying, should I restart it?
Okay.
I don't know what happened. Okay, he says stay here. So
Okay.
I got the Lakers in 6.
I think I had the Lakers in 7, but now that Dragic and
But here's the thing: if the Heat lose tonight, then they're gonna get swept. I think.
really,
Hmm.
I feel like the first game, especially if the Heat can manage to win one within the next 2 games, they're very well in the series. But if not, I feel like they'll at least get 1 or 2 once Dragic and Adebayo come back.
Yeah. The problem is they don't have that much big men as the Lakers do.
Any response yet?
He should be joining soon. I think.
Mm,
No, the problem is Miami does not have any big men like the Lakers do.
yeah,
So
I mean, they had. I don't know if you could really say he's as competitive as Kelly Olynyk. I mean, I don't think obviously that's the person to step up like that, but
yeah, I saw your Hootie highlights on Twitter.
Huddle, yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I didn't get to play last night.
Oh,
I was kind of upset about that. I didn't get even a chance to get in the game, but
did you guys win?
yeah,
So you guys are 3-0 now, 3-0 or?
yep.
Oh wow. Let me see where. Okay, he's logging back in.
Okay, perfect.
I think we left off on your question, right? Kendrick Nunn.
Yeah, I think I was asking about how they're gonna adjust to Bam and uh,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hmm.
And I'm talking on mute, and I thought you guys could hear me. You guys there?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
see.
weird.
Yeah.
All right. I think we left off on, the adjustments Miami's going to have to make in order to fill in for Bam and Dragic out. You were talking about Kendrick Nunn, and I think that's where we lost you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, your screen is blank for some reason.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So try this again. So the house where I'm at, the garage motor went out.
Oh.
Yeah, and so we're playing with the fuse box. All of a sudden, we're talking about Kendrick Nunn and Bam Adebayo on the Heat, and boom, went out. So I think where we left off, we were talking about the Miami Heat and Goran Dragic and how the Heat can recover from Game 1. Is that where we were?
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, I think that Kendrick Nunn is going to have to play like the Kendrick Nunn that we knew from Northern Illinois University and went undrafted. You look at the beginning of the season. I remember sitting down with Kobe White and Chicago Bulls back in November, and he said to me he felt that Kendrick Nunn was the preseason favorite to win, or the early regular season favorite to win, the NBA's Rookie of the Year. Obviously, that didn't happen that way. But I think at the end of the day, he's going to have to, go back into, the time vault and, play like that. But I still do think that you're missing a veteran leader in Goran Dragic, at 34 years old to kind of recover from that injury. I do know that when I look at just kind of going through the database, I think 2013, Joe Johnson had the same injury as Goran Dragic, and I think got some rehab and got a couple of maybe some cortisone shots and, continued to play in the playoffs. Goran Dragic is no Joe Johnson, and no disrespect to Joe or Goran, but it is what it is. I still do think that the Miami Heat still do have Jimmy Butler. If I'm not mistaken, Jimmy Butler got hurt in Game 1 to still continue to play. You're going to need 40 to 45 from Jimmy Butler tonight, and I think that you're going to have to find it in other ways. Does Miami really want it? You're going to see, but I think that Kendrick Nunn is going to have to play. Good basketball. I think Miami's gonna have to play perfect in order to beat the Los Angeles Lakers. In all actuality, though.
So my next question here to you, I want to get to your interview with Jeff Van Gundy, and what was that like interviewing him, and what did you learn from him as a person, his personality? Obviously, a great play-by-play broadcaster. And is he trying to get back into coaching? Did he tell you that?
Yeah, I talked to Jeff about that last night. Jeff, had this desire to coach again, but it's got to be the right fit. He doesn't want to sell, ESPN short. And the fact that, he says he has a good job. You look at all of the coaching changes right now in the NBA. The Clippers is open, the New Orleans Pelicans, Oklahoma City Thunder, the Indiana Pacers.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the Rockets as well. The perfect fit for Jeff, would be the Clippers, but Ty Lue is also candidate in that regard. But to be honest with you, when you look at the Los Angeles Clippers, you still have another guy on that bench that is being talked about in the coaching ranks, and that is one in Sam Cassell. 50 years old, has coached as an assistant coach, with the Wizards, with the Clippers for years, and for 11 years he's been an assistant. But you also look at Wes Unseld Jr., a guy that's an assistant coach currently with the Denver Nuggets, a guy that was open or was a candidate for the Chicago Bulls' coaching position. So I think there are a lot of different options as it relates to Jeff Van Gundy. Obviously, he has a relationship with Lawrence Frank, who was in the front office with the Clippers. They go back years. And I think at the end of the day, though, based off of my conversation with Jeff last night, it has to be the right fit in order for him to, want to go somewhere else. And, he's currently employed by ESPN. So, yeah.
I want to ask this. I'm in Detroit, so we got the Pistons team right now, obviously in a rebuild phase, working around a little bit of Blake Griffin, Derrick Rose. What do you think the Pistons need? Obviously, a big superstar, something big to get competitive again. What do you think that is?
Well, I know that there was talk a couple of months ago about the Pistons in the draft. Will they find a way to potentially pair Lonzo and LaMelo together. LaMelo, you know, is a hot commodity. You have some other, you know, names that are in that vault. So I think the Pistons have kind of just been an afterthought, particularly because over the last few years you've missed out on viable talent. You know, you missed out on Donovan Mitchell for one, and there's some other people as well. So I think for the Pistons, I mean, you got Blake Griffin, and Blake really doesn't want to be there. You know, you go from the hot sun of LA with the Clippers to Detroit, and I think at the end of the day, it comes down to, you know, ownership. It comes down to front office, and you know, I just think that the Pistons are in a basketball doldrums right now, and I'm not sure what the answer is.
So my next question here: what was your reaction to Kyrie's comments on the podcast? He was on the podcast the other day, and what was your reaction when he said those comments with Kevin Durant and?
I don't think Kyrie was trolling. I think Kyrie was in the moment. It was a new podcast that KD had, and I think at the end of the day, I think Kyrie has respect for LeBron. I know Kyrie has respect for LeBron. They won a championship together, but I think ultimately anything Kyrie says is going to be taken out of context because it's Kyrie.
Okay. Sorry, I thought I was on mute. Going forward, as we come to the draft, what do you think are going to be unexpected picks? What do you think are, you know, do you think someone projected possibly late in the first round could potentially go lottery pick?
The NBA draft is not my strength, but what I can tell you from a transactional perspective, the Minnesota Timberwolves are looking to wheel and deal at the time of the draft. I mean, there's talk, you know, within the Timberwolves that, you know, they're trying to find a way to put.
Oh no! Ah, shoot!
Not again.
And it says that we have 8 minutes left too on my Zoom. I just have to upgrade it. All right.
Let's see.
Oh, I heard it. Oh, there we go. Yep.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think that the Sixers and the Timberwolves are potentially looking to make a move, but at the same time, I also think that the Minnesota Timberwolves are in a situation where they want to, you know, pair Devin Booker and you know, potentially Ben Simmons together. So I think that at the end of the day, you're going to see some draft day moves, and it's going to be very interesting to see, you know, what happens. The Warriors are looking to kind of move up. There's been talk about Draymond Green potentially being moved at the draft. So a lot of different things that you're going to do, you know, come draft time.
So my next question here for you: what are your thoughts? Do you see Chauncey Billups or Becky Hammon getting a chance for a head coaching job in this league?
They're definitely coaching candidates. I can tell you last night a source shared with me, you know, that at the end of the day, Mike D'Antoni, you know, is a guy that will be getting a second meeting, you know, with the Indiana Pacers. You know, and in addition to that, you know, Becky Hammon and Chauncey Billups are, you know, two coaching candidates that the Pacers are looking at. I reached out to Pacers general manager Kevin Pritchard the other day, and you know, we've been playing phone tag. But what I can tell you is that, you know, the Pacers are, you know, looking to find a way to, you know, create chemistry and create a culture. You know, you look at TJ Warren, what he was able to do in the bubble in Orlando. You know, TJ Warren kind of did make Victor Oladipo expendable. You know, and I think at the end of the day, though, I think that I think that the Pacers, you know, are looking at next steps. It would be pretty cool to see Becky Hammon be a head coach.
Yeah.
As we come forward to this next season after the finals, I believe NBA's aiming for a couple months from now, around the December, January time, right? What do you think will be, you know, will there be struggles with COVID? Do you think that with that many teams suddenly being involved?
I think the NBA, I think, Adam Silver did give him a January time frame, before he addressed the media before game one of the finals. I know that March was discussed. I mean, as far back as, before the bubble, I know Christmas restart for next season was the discussion. But I know that, they've expressed wanting to play in-market games. So I guess the better question is, I'm told it's impolite to answer a question with a question, but, do you play those games in stadiums without fans? I think the only way you do that is if you find a cure or a vaccine for COVID-19. But at the same time, I do think that when you look at the bubble, it's been proven to be safe. You look at the NFL. I know the Tennessee Titans and the Pittsburgh Steelers. This game is canceled this weekend because there are some members of the Titans who have tested positive for COVID-19. I think there's a lot of things to consider moving forward, and it's going to be interesting. To say that, I do think the bubble has been proven to be safe, though.
I just wanted to mention really quickly too about those positive tests. I know as well Matthew Stafford of the Lions had tested positive, and then a couple of days later he tested negative consecutively. There's been a lot of false positives, and that's the concern I have is, what if we're canceling things based on a false positive?
I think you're very wise beyond your years in that assessment. And I think that at the end of the day, though, I do think that football is very difficult to create a bubble because you have like 53 players on the roster versus the NBA. You have 12 to 15 guys plus a coaching staff. So you figure every party or team has about 30 to 40 people versus that's lower than just an NFL team at 53. So, I think sports is what's keeping people sane. In the East Coast and Midwest, the winter and fall time is starting to get colder versus on the West Coast, it's sunny most of the time, and the South as well. So I think that moving forward, like, we have to make wise decisions. I think the NBA has done a good job in that regard. So it's be interesting to see what happens moving forward, though.
So a couple of things for me here. I'm going back to the NBA Finals. I'm just curious, where's Myers Leonard? Is he injured, or I wonder why is Miami's not playing him that much in this thing?
I'm not sure. I don't know him to be injured. I haven't seen the scouting report for tonight's game, but you look at teams sometimes. You look at the Lakers, for example, J.R. Smith and Deion Waiters. Deion Waiters was hurt, but you look at J.R. Smith, who's just not, did not play coach's decision. I don't know if Myers Leonard is not playing just because of the rotation, but I would imagine that if Bam Adebayo is not playing, Myers Leonard may get some more playing time.
All right.
But you go and then I'll go. Yeah.
All right. I want to ask about the Lakers side of things. Obviously played very well in game one. What is the keys going forward for them? What do they need to keep doing or do more of in order to stay on track?
Just be consistent in taking care of the basketball. I think that, Anthony Davis, if Bam Adebayo is not playing, I think you're going to see he could play and score 40, 50 points in the next game. Because Bam Adebayo was the matchup I was looking forward to seeing, honestly. You guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Bam Adebayo was the matchup against Anthony Davis I was looking forward to seeing. So I think the key for the Lakers is just to grab onto a lead early on, to shoot the basketball. Alex Caruso's been playing good basketball too throughout the playoffs. Rajon Rondo's been breaking records every series, and I think that the Lakers are just a well orchestrated team with guys that have high basketball IQ. I've really enjoyed watching the Lakers play basketball during the playoffs and now in the finals.
Yeah. So the last thing for me here, the million dollar question here. Do you see Anthony Davis staying or leaving? If they win the championship, do you see him staying or leaving, going back home to Chicago, or is that unrealistic?
I know you had Eric Wood. I think both of you guys interviewed Eric Wood.
Yeah, Eric Woodyard. Yeah.
I was with Eric at in Chicago when Anthony Davis was at I was at the same event. Shams was there as well, and he made that statement. I will be a free agent soon. So I think if the Lakers win, I mean, I think it's a different situation. I tweeted a hot take earlier this week about the whole, if it's a similar situation as Kawhi Leonard. But I think at the end of the day, the Lakers situation is different. I know the Lakers were on the list of teams that he wanted to play for. But in my heart of hearts, I just think, throughout covering Anthony Davis throughout the course of the season, being around him, talking to him, I think LA is where he wants to be. But things do change.
Mhm. Yeah, so it says I forgot to upgrade my Zoom, so we have under a minute left. So I guess we can just wrap it up here. And thank you again, Brandon Scoop Robinson, for joining us on the show. Keep up the great work. Keep killing it. I'll be posting this on all social media formats, and everyone tune in soon. I'm interviewing Uptown Dale from the Miami Heat arena game host, so he's gonna come on the show soon. But just keep up the great work. Thank you guys for coming, and stay safe.